Let me share a story with you about an incident that took place in 1978 in the National Committee for the 11th World Festival of Youth and Students. It's a long time ago. But before I do that, it is important to put what I'm about to say in context or in some frame of reference. When I was 8 years of age, living in Kingston, in an economically poor area, I recall looking at the people who were poor in a particular derelict building and thinking why they were that poor and what can be done to up the situation. And I, as a child, you dream of having lots of money and being able to do things which would alleviate the problem that you're facing. You know what the irony was? I was as poor as those people. I was in ragged clothes, barefoot. And it's only looking back I was trying to figure out how come you could be in the same situation but you were not thinking. And I recall a statement that my grandmother used to say very often, that we're not poor in spirit. Repeat that. We are not poor in spirit. It has taken me a very long time to understand what this wise lady was saying. What she was saying is that there is abundance. So while your circumstances may be a certain thing, you have the ability to seek the abundance that exists. I won't get into details of my own personal experience, except to point out that a little later in that journey of life, when I was maybe about 17, I found a little book on the road in Kingston, a little red book. And in 1977, a year before the time we're talking about, I had this book typed out by my secretary. And this is the actual copy of what she typed out. Because for some strange reason, the book disappeared. The same manner I received the book, it's clear that someone else had the book or it had to move on at that time. For 10 years, I studied that book every single day. I didn't say this to anyone. So in all my years in the youth movement as a leader, I did things. I didn't know why I was doing it, but I just kept doing it. And so what I want to share is just a section of what it says here. To live in the past robs the presence of its vitality and colors the future with despair. Cast away the devils of regret, but to say I must think of the past, I'm a part of it. True, but use the past, let it furnish you with the wisdom for the future. Let it assist you through the knowledge it has given you about yourself. Make it a point of departure for the adventure of living now. As I say, that's a prelude to the incident in which I'm going to outline and to explain. I don't think anyone have heard me point this out perhaps before. In 1974, I had the privilege of being in Bulgaria, Sofia. And at that time, the 10th Festival of Youth and Students was being held in Berlin, next door. And I was attending the World Federation of Democratic Youth um, conference for the first time. And I asked if it was possible for me to go. They said it was too late and so forth. So I said, okay. And in Sofia, I actually sat down that night and pledged to myself that I was going to make sure that there's a Jamaican delegation to the 11th World Festival of Youth and Students, which was to be held in Cuba in 1978. 4 years away. I made that pledge to myself. When I returned to Jamaica, remember I'm in the Jamaica Union of Democratic Youth. We'll explain that in another video. And I set out to build an alliance of young people, not along any partisan basis. And there was a method which the international community used. They would form a national preparatory committee. So I set out, and with the contacts, Paul Miller, for example, played a critical role in this. Both my mentor, and at the time he was in the government. We set out to bring in all elements, religious youth, uniform groups, non-affiliated groups, groups in the Youth Development Agency, which I were the Youth Club, which was the largest organization of young people in Jamaica, of which I was a member, not only a member, I was a leader. Because originally I had a goal of creating a national senior members council. Meeting up with Paul Miller, that was changed to create a national organization of young people, which was the Jamaica Union of Democratic Youth, which eventually we achieved in 1975. So 1974, the goal is the 11th World Festival of Youth and Students. We had a lot of activities, what we call manifestation or solidarity event. One such event was, for example, the first organized manifestation of the International Women's Day. That was held under our auspices. We had activities associated with solidarity with South Africa. We had activities in solidarity with Palestine. I'm talking about 1974, 1975, 1976, 1977. We were doing all of this. Get to the actual thing. 2 weeks before the festival, which was being held in Cuba. Remember, I was the chairman of the National Preparatory Committee. It was a meeting, and I was removed as the chairman. And the meeting installed two persons, one belonging to Workers' Party and one belonging to the PLP. Comrade Sluggo and Comrade Sheldon McDonald. I was removed. No one had told me anything that they were dissatisfied. No consultation, no nothing. I was just unceremoniously removed. Now, remember what I said. Cast away the devils of regret. I didn't know it at the time. It's only looking back I realized what happened. I went home that night very devastated, completely devastated as a person. Someone came by to, console me, a close friend. And I told him I just wanted to be alone. And so I dug within myself and recognized that what it is that I need to do. I remember this saying, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and above all, wisdom to know the difference. I could not change anything. I had no power, no control, because I believed in democracy. And if the majority choose and feel that the thing should go in a different direction, then I have no choice but to subject myself to the majority. But here's the difference. I noticed I had no ill feeling to anyone. None. Never have and never will. I accepted what happened and I dedicated myself because what was the objective? The objective was a successful Jamaican delegation to the World Festival of Youth and Students. That had nothing to do with me. That is something I want people to understand. If you're clear as to what your objectives is, who get the praise, who get the kudos, is not important. It is the objective that you want. So for the next couple of weeks and at the festival, I work 24/7 to make the festival a success, to do everything to bring every bearing of my experience. And there was no one else who had the experience which I had. That's just what it was in organization, in planning, in knowing how a large event like that work and how to negotiate with the host and do all of those things. I did all of those things. I continued to work very hard, persistent, and above all, the wisdom to know what you cannot do, and therefore you focus on what you can do. This is one of the things which I've learned. We talk about struggle. I no longer struggle. I contribute because I'm not fighting against anything. I'm contributing for something. That's one of the lessons learned from that period, that what you think about, not only do you become, but you also attract to you. So what was one of the situations or one of the lessons learned from that experience? And it's only looking back I understand. Out of that experience, there is good in everything. So anything, I don't care what it is that looks bad and negative, there is good in it. I became a better person because of that experience. As I learned and realized that I didn't harbor resentment. I was kind of concerned, and expected, to be quite honest, that some people would have been honest with me as how I was honest with them. But it is what it is. And so, the good in that, and there were many good in it, because some of the very persons who organized to remove me had to commend me on the work that I had done. And I felt good about that. I felt good about it. And I know for the years after that, I grew, both in stature and in contribution, as the case may be. On another occasion, I will pick up from this, because what happened basically, I then basically gave up my leadership in the youth movement and concentrated somewhere else. Because I think at that stage, both age-wise and otherwise, I had, reached not the pinnacle, but you had reached a certain stage. So again, just to recap, you don't live in the past. Things that you have no control over, you don't dwell on it. You look for the good. Because that is one of the laws of the universe. Positive, negative. Negative, positive. Good, bad. Up, down. In, out. It's there. And if you look for it, you will see it. And even in your own life, the goal. What are you aiming for? And understand that circumstances, you are responsible for your prosperity, and you have to get others to understand that they are also responsible for their prosperity. I'm sorry. It's not the government, it's not the system, it's not the global elite, it's not capitalism, it's not none of that. Prosperity is for everyone. So that's our goal: prosperity and upliftment of people. Take care. Until such time when I continue these videos.